Hello again, lovely people. This week I am back with another book chat, an edition of which I had hoped I wouldn't have to make, and that is the second of my I fucked up versions of this. I was going to say show, this isn't a show. That would involve some form of professionalism.
Sophie Vlogs.
So, if you are not a regular here, Book Chat is the semi-regular but not monthly roundup of what I've been reading recently. Except I haven't read these books that I'm going to talk about recently. I read them quite a while ago. And you know what I did? I fucked up. Last time I fucked up, I somehow accidentally deleted the footage off of the memory card because I thought I'd put it on the laptop but hadn't. This time, it's more embarrassing. It's not embarrassing, it's just stupid. My lovely camera, I got a very long time ago. It doesn't record longer than like 10 minutes of footage, and so I tend to record, like, each book I talk about will be like one little bit of footage, and then I'll stop recording and then I'll do the next one, just because I'm always really worried that it also doesn't have like I can't see what I'm doing. So, like, I'm worried it'll just stop recording and I won't have recorded and stressed. So, except in this instance, I obviously pressed record, maybe double pressed, so that I thought it was recording but it wasn't. So the footage that I have is all of the little bits in between me talking about the books. So it's just... I didn't even watch it back. I don't bother watching these back after I've recorded them. I'm like, chuck them on the laptop, deal with them later. And then I opened it into my editing program to like be like, oh, I'll edit my next book chat. And I was like, it's just footage of me putting books down and picking different books up and being like, okay. Suffice to say, I've got some books I'm going to talk about, despite the fact that it's been a while. So yeah, I'm just gonna dive in, and we can all just be like, oh Sophie, you silly woman. Of the books I'm talking about this week, I have 3 of them still with me, a couple of them are not. So something that I read that I really liked, but that I did give away to a charity shop just because of space, was a collection of plays by Tennessee Williams. So it was Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Night of the Iguana, oh, and The Milk Train Doesn't Stop Here Anymore. I think of all 3, my favourite was The Milk Train Doesn't Stop Here Anymore, because it's about this this woman who is a recluse in the Italian mountains, like, she's very rich, and then this young man, like, comes to her house and is staying with her, and all of Tennessee Williams' plays, there's this insularity to them. So, like, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, again, it all takes place in the same room, and it's all, you know, like, the relationships between all these family members, and you're like stuffed into this one room and everything's overboiling, and you know, you have all these tensions and all of this love but not healthy love always, and all of these, like, it just gets so so intense and so expressive, but in such like a confined space. And it was the same with The Milk Train Doesn't Stop Here Anymore, where it's this woman, and I really like Blanche Dubois, and I really like The Streetcar Named Desire, and this woman, whose name I've forgotten, really reminded me of Blanche, of almost like what Blanche could have been. There are these aging, fading Southern belles who are this symbol of this time gone by. It felt very Norma Desmond, and you know, just this interplay between someone who was once this glorious person sort of fading into obscurity, but railing against it, but also accepting it, and all of this stuff. This has probably been incoherent, but suffice to say, I really enjoy reading Tennessee Williams. I would love to see some of his plays performed. I've never seen any of them performed, and that is like on the bucket list, because I'd just love to see how they translate. But yes, they were really good. The Milk Train Doesn't Stop Here Anymore was an unexpected favourite, actually. Maybe you shouldn't have given that away. The other one that I don't have with me anymore, because it was lent to me, was Sepulchre or Sepulchre. I don't know which one's correct. By Kate Moss, she of Labyrinth. This was a very similar thing to what Labyrinth is, which tends to be her speciality. So you have two dual narratives. So one takes place in like the past, and then one takes place in like contemporary with when it was written. And there's usually some form of like mystery, and as the person in the present day is going about their time doing whatever it is that they do, they are sort of unfolding they're discovering something to do with what happened, and you learn what happened as the person does as well. This one had a real theme of tarot cards running through it, which was really interesting. I know a bit about tarot cards, but this has taught me a lot more about tarot cards actually. It has that wonderful foreshadowing whereby you are reading the storyline of the person in contemporary time, and you know that such and such a thing didn't happen, or that such and such a thing did happen. And then you flash back again, and your character's doing this thing, and you're like, I want to warn you because I know this is going to go badly because this hasn't happened in this woman's time, but you're powerless to resist. So yes, I haven't read any Kate Moss in ages, and actually this reminded me that I really did like her stuff. I think I was a little bit put off because the book was quite large, but actually it's really easy to read. I sped through it. So if you like historically drama-y, mystery stuff, don't know why I had to phrase it like that, but it was good. I actually really liked it. So after that is Celtic Tales, Fairy Tales and Stories of Enchantment from Ireland, Scotland, Brittany and Wales, illustrations by Kate Forrester. Isn't this beautiful? I got this for Christmas, I think, from my lovely boyfriend. These fairy tales are sort of split into some sort of theme or category, and then from there each one begins with a gorgeous illustration. Like, her art style is so beautiful. I love this one particularly just because the seals are flipping adorable. And then these are not stories which she has written, they are stories which she has curated. So a lot of them I did actually know, only because I recently read Kevin Crossley Holland's Folktales of the British Isles, which has a lot more. It's got a lot of folktales in it, and they obviously had an overlap of the sources, because when you go back to find Celtic folktales, those are the types of writers that you return to. So there was an overlap there, but there were actually a number of tales which I also didn't know. I just like reading folktales. I find it interesting to read these narratives that sort of were the ones we were telling years and years and years ago, that we still have a fascination and an interest in now. They just seem like this constant. So yeah, that was super interesting. If you are also into fairy tales and want to read more like just folktales and stuff like that, this is a beautiful edition and I would heartily recommend it. Penultimately is H is for Hawk by Helen Macdonald. This is a book which I've been meaning to read for ages. My friend kept raving to me about how good it is, and I finally did, and it was so good. But it was nothing like what I expected it to be, because I knew that this was going to be a tale of a woman who, in the aftermath of the death of her father, gets a hawk and learns to train a hawk. But as well as this narrative, there was also this other narrative running through, which is sort of like, almost like a biography about T.H. White, the author, which was really interesting. So MacDonald she's really taking you through this time of grief, and it is like, your heart goes out to her. There is a real exploration of her grief and the way she's working through her grief by trying to form this relationship with this creature that is unruly, that seems untamable at times, but which she is trying to tame, which she then parallels with T.H. White and how he himself tried to train a hawk, and he did it so badly because he didn't know what he was doing. I actually have the Sword and the Stone by him to read, because I don't think I've ever read them. But he's not someone who I knew anything about, and it was very interesting to learn about him and to see this paralleling between the two of them. And it was just, I've been reading a lot of autobiographies and stuff like this, but this is the first time I think I've read a memoir that's about grief and that sort of thing. And I found it a very enriching experience, because I don't want to say it was fun, because there were a lot of difficult things, but I am really glad I read it, and it gave me a lot to think about. Finally, something a little bit more frivolous, and that is Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day by Winifred Watson. I bought this because I saw the film of this, and it's one of my favourite films. I absolutely love it. This was as light and delightful as I expected it to be, although I didn't enjoy it as much as I liked the film. I would say that there are a couple of moments of this which sort of show the time it was written in, I think. A couple of moments of prejudice and stuff like this, which just sort of teeped in slightly. This was really delightful, and it's sinking into a comfortable old armchair type of a read. I think my main thing is that there is a thread that runs through the film which wasn't present in this, which I didn't know wouldn't be present in this, and I think I kept wanting that bit because there's a relationship between two characters where they bond about how they are the older generation, and they sort of contrast their experience with the youthful naivety of the time, and all this, that sort of thread that ran through is one of my favorite threads in the film. So I think I was just a little bit sad not to have it present in the book. However, it was a lot of fun. I did really like it. It was great. That is everything. I have recapped all of the stuff that I lost in my foolish inability to work a camera. Just an extra anecdote. My podcast, we also did a recording with another podcast, like guesting on their podcast show, and it went really great, and it was fantastic. And then my friend, when I sent him my audio, was like, Sophie, you're not recording from your fancy microphone, you've recorded from your really bad laptop microphone, which, by the way, my laptop sounds like a small aeroplane is trying to take off every time you try and do something on it, and it was just unusable. And thank God there was a backup, which the other people had been recording because they were able to use that. But my life flashed before my eyes, and I'm just really bad. I just screw up through like sheer, I don't even know how. I just screw up all the time with these things. So as much as I would like to say this is probably the final I fucked up edition of this show, it's probably not. Until that time, I hope you're having a really lovely day. I hope I don't screw up again soon, and I will see you next time for something different.